Now it's my pleasure to introduce our next speaker, Christophor, as he chooses to be called, not Bob. We all learned him that way, so Christophor. And he's come to share with us several things. One is his book, Messages from the Light. And also, I'm happy to tell you he is the president of the IANDS chapter in the Netherlands. He was right after Pen van Lommel, and he was sharing that with me, so I was so happy to tell you that. And there's about 450 people in their group. So, wow, isn't that wonderful? Yeah, so yay already. And I asked him if he was the president or the chairperson or whatever, and he said, well, Debbie, the president, because that's what y'all call things here and so on. So he's tolerating my questions of what do I call you. So I'm going to call you, thank you, Christophor, for being here. And as you see, his title is about the change of, yes, ma'am. Oh, here. Okay. Okay, but okay. Okay. I'm interrupting for just a second. As you see, I got a message that I'm supposed to announce. There are 3 seats available at Jane Cotra's table for lunch, and in order to make all the arrangements, that has to be taken care of now. So anybody who would like to take advantage of that, please see Delane in the back. So now I get to do it again. Now I'm so excited to welcome Christophor again. Yes, I am. And you see his title up there is about lives changed, and our lives in our world are going to be changed in moments because we're going to welcome our next speaker, Christophor.
Thank you so much for the introduction. I hope everyone can hear me from here. Now you make me tell why I want to be called Christophor. That's my second name, which I find nicer. It's my second name, which is nicer than Robert, I think. But I hear a beep as well, so I hope the magician in the back can do something about this. Now, the title of the conference is Lives Changed Forever. And obviously, that has to do with near-death experiencers whose lives change forever. It's my conviction that not only their lives change, also the lives of non-NDErs can change very much. And that is because the messages that are in near-death experiences are of great value to others as well, to non-NDErs as well. And I think, and I'm convinced of that when we would take these messages more serious, the world will really change. And I still hear a beep. The world will really change, and that is a good thing. That is why I called my speech, Lives Changed, the World Changed. And I'm trying to convince you through my presentation that this is the case, and I also want to the point is that I try to make is, and it has to do with the fact that I think there's a worldwide change going on already, and I'll try to explain that during my presentation. I think it is a new dawn, and I think we should all be honored to be here. It might be painful, and we feel the pain already somewhere, and I'll try to explain that later on. But it will get better, and also that I'll tell a little bit more about. I'll try to give away the message right away. My main message is that we are living in a unity universe where everything is thoroughly interconnected with each other. Whatever we do and think, it has an effect somewhere else. And we used our free will to focus on our short-term self-interest. And by doing that, we created not only the Great Recession that we are in at this moment, but we are creating other things as well. The Great Recession started in the United States, but we have our problems in Europe as well. It goes along the world. And the funny thing is, I'm not an experiencer, but I seem to make this work. I should be. Okay, so the short-term self-interest is something that we used to, actually we created these recessions and things ourselves. Not only the recession, but I want to stress also that it has to do with the environment as well. And we have to change our focus. We have a choice. We need to change our focus towards a longer term our interest. And that is where we have to be heading towards. And we can do that best by getting aligned with the light. And I want to stress also that this idea is something that I based upon all the interviews that I had with many NDErs. And that is what I put down in this book that was shown to you just now. Now, I also want to tell you who I am, because I'm not only the president, as it was said, of IANDS, the Netherlands. I am an economist. I'm sorry, but I'll try to explain to you that from being an economist, I get, and combining that with my interviews with near-death experiences, I come to interesting conclusions. I graduated from university in the Netherlands. I even get my PhD. And the reason why I chose economics was that I wanted to understand the world, how it worked. But that was the material side. I knew there was more. And I went on my search to find something that would match that. And the interesting thing was that in 1978 or so, I read the book by Raymond Moody, and it really shocked me. And you have to understand it's a positive shock, because the moment I read this book, I was so sure that what he wrote down there with all these experiences, I could relate to them. And the funny thing is, I still maintain I don't have a near-death experience. I didn't have one, as far as I know. But I could really relate to all this, and I thought this was true. Now, I found something that I was looking for, and those were the NDEs. Why NDErs? Well, I believe in them. The point is that they say, and you say, there are many of you in the hall, you say that you have been on the doorstep of heaven. Some even have been in heaven. For me, you are the closest way to get to know reality that supersedes our material reality. So for me, you are a peek hole through which I can get to know something more. And that is why I believe in you. And there are two particular reasons that I find very intriguing. The life review without a judge, and being thoroughly interconnected. Now, the life review without a judge is something that is very intriguing, because apparently we don't need a judge. There is no judge. If there is a judge, it is ourselves. Yeah. The point with it is that we don't need a judge because we get to know everything. We are infused with a lot of knowledge, with the feelings of others. We know exactly what we did to others as if we are those others. So we don't need a judge. We are our judge ourselves. If we want to be a judge, you don't need to be. And the funny thing is that actually from this you get the impression that I am you and you are me. It is the same. That is why we can understand what we did to others. And this gives you the impression of profound interconnectedness. But also people with NDEs who didn't have a life review know and feel that there is a profound interconnectedness in this world. And that is where I start from. I find this a kind of innovation to our thinking, because it cannot be thought of by a human being. It is very intriguing. Now, what do NDErs say? From my interviews, I got the strong impression that the world is going through much needed changes. and these are crucial times because we have come at a crossroad. We need to make a few choices, and I will elaborate on that. One NDER said, at the moment humanity is going through the struggles of its adolescence. Apparently we are going to be adults. We are not adults yet. We are going through our adolescence. Who am I now? Who do I want to be? Will we choose for our soul or for our ego? Those are interesting questions. Now, this guy that I spoke to, he had a partly distressful NDE. And he also added something interesting because he said, how will negative darkness play its role here? And you know, we spoke about negative darkness and positive darkness. I want to bring this as an opposition because people have experienced a darkness that was very nice and loving and good. And this is a darkness that was fearful and there was a lot of anxiety there. And that was what he felt. And he thought, apparently, that this was going to play some kind of role there. I just give this to you. So the confusion that we presently feel has to do with the Great Recession because it affects our wallet. But there's more. There's also, of course, the environmental issues, and I'll come to that later.
What do NDErs, what can I learn from NDErs? Well, in short, that has to do with that we are part of Unity Universe. Listen to what some of the quotes of NDErs. We have a tremendous awareness. It is as if we become awareness ourselves. All knowledge is available. It is there to tap into. There's a vast amount of knowledge, and we just need to reach out to it, and we get it. We just need to ask a question, and the answer pops up immediately. There are no physical limitations. You can just walk through doors, walk through concrete. You don't need glasses. I hear all these funny stories about people who need glasses, very thick glasses, to see in normal life, and when they're in their NDE, they can see everything from many different angles as well. Now, that's very interesting. And then this one I like too very much. Time all exists at the same time. There is no future, there is no past. It all blends. It is all at the same time here. We don't see it here because we have to go linear forward. But this is what they say. This is the case. We are part of a great energy. It is so big, and we are all part of it. And then we can feel exactly what others felt, as if we are those others. I mentioned that before. There is no distinction actually between us and them. And that is why we can judge, not judge, I don't like that word. That's why we can understand what our position is versus other people. And this one, the limitless and unconditional love. I always tell people when I give a presentation, just imagine what unconditional means. It has no conditions. I know that there are distressful NDEs. I just want to acknowledge them, and I came across a number of them. Well, Unity Universe. I am you, you are me. But there's more to it. There's also we are nature. It is all the same. That is the message that you get from all these NDEs. All these lines that I just gave to you lead up to this kind of conclusion. And an interesting thing was, for my book, I had the opportunity to do a number of interviews with radio stations in the United States, and that was really nice. And there was, oh no, I forgot to say something else. This is very nice too. There was a monthly NDE of last year in July, and that was really striking because there was this woman who had her near-death experience, and she knew that when she would go back, she knew that she had to go back. She couldn't take everything with her, yet she wanted to bring information back to console people that death is not the end, and to inspire goodness in people. Now, how to say that in one line that she could try to remember when she comes back again. So she thought of this one line and she said, this is the line that just describes exactly what it is. Now I'll give you this line, and I love this line. All is everything and everything is one. So that has to do with unity universe. And then I had this interview that I was talking about before, and I thought I said something very intelligent by saying, we are part of one big whole. And because that's what is based on what I hear from you. And then there was this near-death experiencer coming on the phone, and he said, that's true, but it's also one big whole is part of us. And I love that too. I think that all has to do with unity universe. And by saying unity universe, it sounds like there is kind of a unity blob. But that's not the case. It is not a dull, big thing that we belong to. There's a lot of diversity, and it's lovingly accepted. And that is very important. If we are part of this unity universe, then we in fact have influence on everything. Everything we do that ripples through universe. All our actions ripple through universe. Now, exactly what are our problems? Well, we are struggling with to get out of the Great Recession. And this name was given to this episode that we are still in by people like me, economists. We have had the Great Recession in the 30s. And what we are experiencing now is not as terrible as it is then. So it is a recession, but nevertheless it's kind of big. So we call it the Great Recession. And I think it's great also for another reason. It's great because we get to choose something. That is what we need to do. And one NDER told me not to focus too much only on the economic side. She said to me, the credit crisis is actually just the tip of the iceberg. Our greed is bringing disorder to the whole system of Earth. And that has to do also with the environmental problems that she alluded to. So I will elaborate on both things. So first the Great Recession, and then the environmental issues, and then I will give you a solution, at least what I think. So first I start with the Great Recession, and I need to cover a little bit of economics there, but don't leave the room. It will be absolutely understandable to you, so relax and stay here. The point is that the recession developed in periods. The first period started in 2007 with the problems, and that led up to the almost failure of Bear Stearns. That was a very important big investment corporation, and that one was rescued by my colleagues at the Federal Reserve. I work for the Dutch Central Bank, and the Federal Reserve are my colleagues. So they brokered this deal, and everyone was happy because it was saved. We can go back to do the party again. That is, of course, very dangerous to think. Anyway, I had my interview with this lady in the Netherlands somewhere. We were sitting in her garden, which is below sea level, and but it was dry anyway because we have dikes. Then we discussed the whole episode, of which I thought was over. The whole crisis was over already, and because I'm an economist. Then we discussed this thing, and she said to me, no, it's not over. Listen, 22 years ago, I had my near-death experience, and this near-death experience, I had feelings of something that was going to happen, and I couldn't relate to that when I came back to Earth. I understood exactly what was happening when I was still there in this other place, but when I'm back here, I don't understand what it was or when it's going to happen because there were no dates. you must understand all this, and you know that, of course, comes in a more elaborate kind of communication, more sophisticated. It comes in feelings or telepathic. So when you come back again, you can't really have words that we use in ordinary life to describe these kind of things. So she didn't know what to do with it, and she kept it for 22 years. And then in that garden below sea level with me, she told me, you know, now I feel that this tension in my near-death experience 22 years ago matches exactly with what I feel now on Earth, just before this rescue of Bear Stearns. And we are not out of the problems yet. She said, what is happening in America is just the forerunner of the real crisis. The real crisis is still to come, and it will really be severe. Many people will be affected. And she added something very interesting there. She said, everything that is detrimental to human beings is wrong, be it economical or environmental. And then this is nice. Materially, a new world is being created. Now, I went back home and I thought, I don't know what she's talking about. So half a year later, when it was September, then we first had AIG. You must know that because that's one of the biggest firms, financial firms in the United States, went almost broke. Then you had Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, those gigantic mortgage firms. They went almost broke. Then we had Lehman Brothers, and they went actually belly up. And then it started. And you know what happened afterwards. There was a big crisis throughout the world, not only in the United States, but there were many people unemployed here, like in Europe. But first, between March and September, the stock markets had to reach all-time highs. And the oil price was very exuberant because it went up to 147. But then this episode came, and I thought, she's right after all. And you know, I love this kind of, this example because to me, it is a kind of veridical observation. You know what the veridical observations are, of course. It's when someone floats out of his body and sees a shoe in the ledge of the hospital, or sees his dentures being taken out, put in a crash cart, and then disappear. And then when they come through, they know where the shoe is and where the dentures are. And that can be checked, and they find these things there. But this is a kind of thing in the same way. She told me something from her near-death experience that she had seen, but that still had to take place, and that actually worked. It happened. So I find that very nice as a kind of veridical observation. So what caused the Great Recession? I think it is the extensive dishonesty in mortgage production. That's where it started with the subprime. You know, they had these things to lure people into mortgages that people couldn't pay. Like you had these liar loans. People were asked to just lie about their family situation or their income, and then they would take out a very big loan that they couldn't pay. Or you had teaser rates where it started very low, and after a while they went sky high, and the people that took out these mortgages didn't know, and they after a few years they found out that they couldn't pay. And that has to do with the not a win-win situation. It is possible to have a win-win situation where the bank lend money to someone to buy a house. It is a win-win situation because the bank earns interest and the guy or the doll can stay in a house and be very happy after all. But when these people can't pay for that after a while, then you have a loss situation, especially when you know in advance that they cannot pay. That's dishonesty. So it is actually an I win, you lose situation. I win for the bank, you lose for the customer. And that is kind of wrong. And then it went on further. These mortgages were repackaged and put into the capital market, which is still, I find that's a very good thing to do, but it starts to be not so very optimal when you package crap together and sell it as gold edged. That is kind of dishonest, I would say. And that is what happened. And you know, in the congressional hearings that followed afterwards, you had these people working in these rating agencies that rated these crappy things that they thought they were gold edged still as triple A's. And they knew they were doing wrong because of all these wonderful quotes that were in that congressional hearing. I'll give you a few. You have here, we have created a monster. Well, that means that they knew they created a monster. They knew in advance. Let's hope that we are all wealthy and retired by the time this house of cards falters. Now, that means that they knew that they created a house of cards. So what does it make? That's not very honest, is it? This one is very nice too. It could be constructed by cows and we still give it a rating. The last one is really very nice. It's a little bit long, but these errors make us look either incompetent at credit analysis or like we sold our souls to the devil for revenue. Now, I do rest my case here. One NDER was very clear about all this, and she said, money became the goal itself and not anymore a means. Our world is based on money and everything else is made subordinate to it. And a young man who had a kidney problem when he was 8 years old, he had his near-death experience, and that near-death experience was quite extensive. He had a tunnel and he saw paradise kind environments. He met the light. He had a life review, and then he saw also his grandfather somewhere, and you know, it's all mixed up, so it's not a sequence. But this grandfather took him around to see the world. So they went around the world. Isn't that wonderful? You don't need you don't need kerosene for that. Anyway, and he showed him also the future. And then what he said about his experience was, now I see and experience things that I already saw 21 years ago. I find this surreal, very difficult to comprehend. So he saw during his near-death experience already the period that we are in at this moment. He continues by saying, humanity is caught up in an emotional obsession for money, wanting more and more, while real riches can be found within ourselves. Yes. It doesn't stop there. We are entering a period of time which is meant to make us understand that happiness is to be found in other things. Now, I did have a lot of interviews, and from many interviews I really understand, and maybe you yourself feel that as well, that we are really going through some great changes. And what both NDEs try to say is that we go for the money instead of doing a win-win situation. We go for an I win and you lost situation. And that is greed. It is actually greed. And by doing this, we created, as I call, an I don't care about you society. So that is actually where we are in now. And I'm sorry to say we are also in Europe having that kind of society. And that has brought us the current crisis. And this is what another NDER told me. The crisis is based on the combination of greed and indifference. However, you cannot be indifferent. You need to care. Now, don't get me wrong. There is nothing wrong with money as such. And there's nothing wrong with making money, even if it's a lot. Money is a kind of energy. You can do wonderful things with energy, so you can do wonderful things with money as well. You can compare that with a hammer. You can do wonderful things with a hammer as well. You put a nail in a wall and you can make constructions. You can also hammer someone's brains out. That is a less optimal way of using a hammer. That is, that is, so to speak, also the same with money, of course. That was the money part. And that has to do with I win and you lose situation. And there's another thing. It is not a punishment. We are not experiencing this Great Recession as a punishment. The light does not punish. And I want to stress that particularly because, and in between brackets now, also the Hurricane Irene and the earthquake south of Washington are not a punishment from the light, not from God. It may be a surprise to you, but it's not. It is something that some of your politicians try to make us believe. Close the brackets now. Now, on the European side, I was covering some of the things that were happening in the United States, but on the European side, we have our problems as well. It started, of course, with the subprime crisis, and because we are interconnected, it also goes to Europe. And where we experience this now is from Greece. Greece is in the euro. They have a massive corruption there. They cheated about their numbers and they cheated their way into the euro. Now, corruption is a kind of tax. And believe it or not, I know Americans don't like taxes at all, but there are good taxes. Those are the taxes that are being plowed back into society again because it can enhance society in specific ways. But corruption is a kind of tax where the revenue stays with a few individuals who go to buy large yachts and other kinds of stuff. And that is not very productive. That is what I meant with money is energy. You need to do something very good with it. Ireland and Spain, we have problems there as well on the financial side. Those are based on greed as well because the real estate market has really boomed there and everyone tumbled over each other to grab a piece of the revenue there. And that has brought so much greed there, and now you see the results there. And I want to just mention also North Africa and Syria. The consequences of a long suppression and all the corruption that is there and the neglect of the individuals, all that is, the light is trying to shine through. There is a lot of things going on. So now this was a Great Recession. And now I turn to something even more depressing, which is the environmental issues. I just wanted to share with you a few things that some NDErs said. What about this? The feeling about this is terrible. What we do to Earth is incredible. It cannot continue like that. And that is what more NDEs try to express. And the young man with a kidney problem, he said something along the same line. He said, I understood that we are nature and that it is urgently needed to change our behavior. Otherwise, we will destroy the whole lot, nature and the earth, and therefore also mankind. Well, look what he says. He said, we are nature. That is what he understood. That has to do with unity universe. We are nature. We are all in it together. Another NDER said, there are some climate processes which cannot be stopped anymore. We are on the eve of great disasters. It has to do with water, but that is a bit obvious now. Now, obvious or not, but water reoccurs in many of the interviews that I had with near-death experiences. And also the woman that could foretell the Great Recession, she said, apart from the economic side that she saw and which proved to be true, she saw also something with water, but she doesn't understand what it is still, because it still apparently needs to be realized. And the funny thing is that when we were sitting in her garden below sea level, she told me that she was not afraid, and I loved that part. She's not afraid. Nevertheless, she bought an inflatable boat. And she stored it in her garage. Now, I was sitting later on in Amsterdam, and I was thinking, I'm at 0 level. She's below sea level, and I'm on sea level. Maybe I should buy an inflatable boat too, but I don't have a garage to store it in. So I didn't do it yet. But there's more to it. You know, we had the great oil spill in the Gulf. You know that I don't know if you know that, but there's a great plastic soup out there, and the great plastic soup is in the Pacific Ocean. You shouldn't drink it because it's the result of many years of tossing in the ocean of all kinds of plastics. And it's supposedly to be the size of either Texas or the United States. The scientists are still not very clear on that. It's too big. Anyway, we have the extinction and near extinction of animal species and of a lot of vegetation. We have a global warming. It's also a global warning, of course. And have you noticed how many floodings there were last year and also this year? And we had the tsunami there. We have from that nuclear problem in this Fukushima plant. Have you noticed that there are dead volcanoes working already? And you had this earthquake south of Washington. I don't know what to make out of all of this, but there's a lot of things going on. So now we know what the problem is. We choose to pursue our own short-term self-interest, and we use our freedom to focus on a I don't care about you society. And we were only focused on financial wealth, whereas our spiritual wealth is more important. That is one of the messages from near-death experiences as well. Don't focus on your financial wealth. It's your spiritual wealth, and we all have that already. And our system, in fact, stimulates greed, and greed is a kind, we discussed that yesterday with some people, greed is a kind of results from fear. I need a lot of stuff for myself because maybe I need it later on. But universe provides everything for us. There's enough for everyone. We need to find a different way. People have started to believe that greed is good. It's not. Some people started to believe that cheating others for the sole benefit of yourself is acceptable. I don't think it is. And you know, all these kind of things, when you look at it, maybe near-death experiences and experiencers should be more open about what they see. Because this is what one near-death experiencer said to me. It is a kind of emergency call of love. She said, there is a different way of living and loving that does justice to ourselves, others, and Earth. So there is a different way possible. We live on the edge of a number of crises that can give humanity a very rough time. And are we being shaken up by so many people, you and NDErs, who have seen reality that far supersedes our own reality? And then she says, yes, it seems like that. That is also an important thing of near-death experiencers. The NDE as an emergency call of love. So I want to stress that there is a different way of living possible. We don't see it now at this moment, but there is a way, and we will see it later on somewhere. Now the solution, because that of course is very interesting. It is my assumption that the Great Recession occurs to remind us of the fact that we can't just do something and have the illusion that we can just walk away from what we did. We shouldn't think that the fallout of our actions is something that we can run away even if we try to run fast. The reason is because we are profoundly interconnected. But that's maybe the economic side, you could say. But there is another lesson that we've learned from near-death experiences, that we are part of unity universe. And when we are part of unity universe, all our thoughts and what we do have a ripple creating effect. They create something. There are ripples that we create by doing and thinking. And these ripples travel through universe. They do something somewhere else. So in fact, not only the ripples have create something, but we create something too through these ripples. Actually, we do have a creative power, and we used our creative power in a less optimal way, I would say. And I learned one thing from near-death experiencers: don't talk about bad and good, because things are optimal or less optimal. And that is the thing that is important. This is something nice too. As one NDER said, everything I do has influence on everything. Nothing is lost. It is a kind of law of conservation of energy. That is why we shouldn't do to others what we don't want for ourselves. Moreover, what we send will attract. We should also be mindful of our thoughts, because we create with our thoughts. Our thoughts are very important as well. It is a kind of law of conservation of energy. That is what is mentioned there. And we know that already, because our inner spiritual core knows that and cares in a universal way. It is not interested in its own self-well-being only. It cares for others and for nature as well. But for one or other reason, we have acquired this idea that we are not interconnected. And now we have to choose to let go of that flawed idea. We have to try to include others also in our short-term self-interest. We should expand our interest with others as well. And we should try to do that on a longer term. So that is where we have to be heading towards, to a longer term our interest. And that idea of a long-term our interest is not something that is new. There's a lot, if you read through near-death experiences, you understand and you feel that and you see that. And I just want to give you one quote of that. Struggle and duality are a pitiful waste of energy. Love and unity and sharing will bring us joy, warmth, and being. And what another near-death experiencer said, every human being has a task. Just like cells in a body, one cannot just disconnect oneself from the whole or ignore that there is a deep interconnection with the universe. Only when people acknowledge their mutual interconnectedness can the whole be sustained. You know, we have to change, and we need to change. And there was a lovely warning by someone, a near-death experiencer, and I like this one too, this warning. If we return to business as usual, remember that I said that before, the whole thing will happen again and in some or other form. And the next crisis will occur closer to this one. It will be more like instant karma. You do something and you'll get immediately slapped in your face. Now for something more uplifting, we will change. Remember the woman who foretold the Great Recession? She told me that I could tell her story under the precondition that I would also say that she saw that humanity would move on through this difficult episode and would be in a much better state later on. And it should be a state where everyone benefits, because and when that state is there, people will be surprised. That is what my take is there. Because she said, everyone will say, apparently things can be different and can be better. Maybe we don't see it at this moment yet, but it will emanate at some point in time. And then it is not only there for the happy few, everyone should participate in it, because the point is that no one is more than another. God wants the best for us, more than we can ever dare to dream of, but He wants the best for all of us. He doesn't draw boundaries. And also, we shouldn't say it's not possible. It is possible. Maybe we don't see it now, but it is possible. God is also freedom. We pose restrictions on ourselves. We make prisons in our own head, even allow others to make prisons in our head by accepting the restrictions they pose upon us. Now, I mentioned that I'm an economist, and I think I'm in my own prison because of my education. You know, when you do economics or any other education, you are confined to some kind of thinking. And that kind of thinking was really pressed into me, and I had high notes on university, so it is really done very well. I mean, it's impressed in me very well. So a solution should not come from me. I think it should come from people that have not had this kind of education. Anyway, what does it mean to focus on our long-term, our interest? What do you think then? Well, I put together a few sentences. In any case, we need to have more respect for others and for nature. And it means to have good intentions, to cherish integrity, to be honest, incorruptible, and non-greedy. That's an interesting one. To allow others to have something that we would like to have, but still be genuinely happy for them that they have it. Be truly satisfied for what we have. We have already so much. The pie is so big. We can all share. And we can make it bigger even. But we have to reorganize things. And to continuously create positive ripples. That is something that we have to do. In short, it would be more optimal if we would use our freedom to choose to be in line with the light. So that is what I ended with at the start of my presentation. That is where I think we need to go. We need to be aligned with the light. Because in that case, we are more in tune with unity universe. And then things will flow by itself. It is beneficial to be in tune with unity universe. Now, how do you reach alignment with the light? I'm sure that you have your own ideas about that, especially when you have had your near-death experience. But I think it could be by, well, people would say maybe praying or meditating, but not everyone wants to pray, not everyone can meditate. But I think it is easier than that. I think it has to do with the fact that we have to realize that we are thoroughly interconnected. If we realize that day after day, all the time, then you start not to be cheating others. You don't need to do that because you know you are interconnected and you cheat on yourself. So trying to understand that you're interconnected with others is something that's very important start. And I think near-death experiencers are necessary to show the way because you have seen that kind of thing. So I'd like to ask you to be more open, not only here during the conference, but elsewhere as well. And I believe that when we reach a certain critical mass, things will start to change. That is what I wanted to say.
Thank you, Robert Christophor.
Very good.
We've got 5 minutes to do questions.
When I first read Dr. Moody's book shortly after it came out, one of the things that I noticed in there, I think it was the first book, one of his books, he said that he told us of the experience of Tom Sawyer, who had a life review which included a traffic accident in which he punched the other motorist with whom he collided. He kept punching him in the mouth a multiplicity of times, mentioned some large number. And he said that when he had his near-death experience, that he felt the pain in the victim's mouth. So I extrapolated from that if you could feel the discomfort that you inflict on other people, that you can probably also feel the joy that you inflict on other people when it comes time for your life experience. So I adopted a hobby of unexpectedly inflicting joy on other people.
I love that hobby.
Like leaving $100 bills in front of them, or things of that nature, creative ways to slip them some cash. Like, for example, my what do you call fine dining group. We do various things, and one of them was I chartered hot air balloon rides, and we were crossing the sky in a hot air balloon, and I had a lot of coins in my pocket, and I was dropping them, watching them go down to the earth.
Did you hit anyone with the coins?
No. It was over an uninhabited area. So we passed by over an area, a grassy, wooded area, and there were some children playing and frolicking in the grass there. And I dropped down a lot of coins. They were flashing in the sunlight, and the pilot of the hot air balloon called the children over to take the coins from the grass like an Easter egg hunt. And I was thinking later on that probably when they got out of bed that morning, they didn't anticipate that was going to happen. So that was like that was my hobby of creating serendipities, happy, unexpected surprises. Like I thought of myself as you know, Johnny Appleseed, who planted apple trees around. My name is David, so I thought of myself as David Serendipity Seed, creating happiness where people don't expect it, because too many surprises are unhappy, and it's better if more happy surprises are in the world. So I think that integrates with your presentation.
I think that's wonderful that you bring that here. I thank you very much. That was
But
good.
I did not copyright that, and anybody and everybody is free to do anything he wants to do in relation thereto.
I love this conscious universe. I just have a comment and then a question for you. The comment is, in a unity universe, as you say beautifully actually, consciousness itself accepts all, no exceptions. And that's what the NDErs say. But I wanted to ask you about the negative or negatively experienced NDEs. And because I really... Distressful ones or negatively experienced. Doesn't mean a hell experience, it just means negatively experienced or distressful. And in my mind, those are also evidence of a unity universe that accepts all, no exceptions. And I wondered if you would comment a little bit about what you learned from the distressful NDEs in a unity universe.
That's an interesting question. I didn't expect that one. I know that there are distressful near-death experiences, but they do something to people as well. They have a positive effect as well on people. People change in the same way as blissful near-death experiences do. But how to picture that in this context? You know, it is an aspect of the world we are living in, or the unity universe that we are living in. And I believe that all roads lead to the light. That was something that we discussed during this conference, and that is a thing that I believe in. also from the people that I spoke to with a distressful NDE. So it is part of it, but it eventually lead into the light as well.
Okay, thank you very much.
I fit into virtually the same category as the economist. As a CPA working for the international firm, which I'm sure you're familiar, Ernst & Young.
I'm not alone then.
And then becoming a tax law professor, and then in about 1988 going through my NDE. And having virtually the same thing come as the lady from the Netherlands. So in the early 90s, I started telling everyone, because that you truly cannot tell the timeline. The timeline is so different between the two that when you experience it, you think it is going to be tomorrow. And I started following the Federal Reserve newsletters and following everything and telling people what was coming. But what it tended to bring on was fear. So when I went back into it and went to a higher level, I started to understand. And you always have to search go to the higher level. When Einstein said a problem cannot be solved at the level of consciousness that it was created, he is exactly saying what is coming. Everyone's got to move to the higher level in order to solve the problem. But if there's enough discomfort at this level, it will force them to move to the higher level. So that everything that is happening is exactly what's supposed to happen on the timetable that it's supposed to happen, and there are no mistakes. And we may feel that we are creating the problems, but it's all part of the growth of the soul.
I couldn't have said that better. Thank you very much. That's wonderful.
I want to say, Bob, I am just so incredibly grateful that there is someone of your light and this gentleman's light working in banks and the economy, because you were needed there, and I know that you're taking that light where it's needed. I'm so glad I followed this gentleman and his comments, because I completely agree with him. And I kind of want to throw out a challenge to people as part of the solution. I know it's hard enough to love even the people that we love, because they annoy us, and we're in 3D and it's hard. But I've been practicing something in the last 6 months, and I've seen on a smaller level some really amazing benefits to it in my life and the lives of other people. And it's to try and take 5 minutes every day and think of the people that you're really, really mad at. Think of the people in Congress that you just can't stand. Think of the people on Wall Street that you think just totally screwed up everything in our lives and took our pensions away and everything else. And wrap them in a pink bubble of love. And just hold them there. Because I agree with you that it is fear that has created this greed. It's people trying to fill something inside themselves that can't be filled from something outside themselves. And if we can wrap them in love and help to fill that hole with love, maybe they too can see a way to change things and include others and share. So I throw out that challenge, and I can tell you it's not easy.
Thank you very much.
We have time for one more question. This will be the last question.
I have a comment and a small question. I feel like we're the tugboat. You know, I always wonder, how does the tugboat carry that big boat out, you know? So we get to be like the tugboat, right? You get that?
I love that comparison.
Yeah, right. And I was just wondering, from an economist point of view, are there things that you've noticed, like a small thing that starts and then that, you know, changes everything, you know, from an economic point of view?
Yeah, well, the point
like
is
the small spark.
Yeah, but that's what I tried to explain before. I think you need a critical mass in order to change things. And the small tugboat, when it starts, you see nothing working, nothing moves, but something does something. There is something moving. You don't see the whole ship move, but there is some activity there. And after a while, it moves.
Do you know,
And-
like, from a, like, okay, so my really literal side of my brain, even though I'm really intuitive, is there like a number? Like, has anyone ever looked at
No.
for a percentage?
No,
Okay.
no.
All right,
I
thanks.
wouldn't know, but I'm
like
sure, I'm absolutely
4%.
sure that we are going to change,
Yeah.
and it needs, I think, some kind of critical mass, and I don't know where that is. That is why I try to urge everyone to try to understand that you're interconnected already. That makes a difference. That makes a difference. Try to picture that in your own life. If you're interconnected, just like Ellen said, you are also interconnected with this Congress guy or woman that you really hate. I'm sorry, that's the case.
Yeah, it's true. Well, thank you, and I appreciated the presentation.
Thank you.